Recently on the Wayspotters podcast, you heard Mr. Chris say...
Can I just say that we did a whole episode on what this transition might look like? And nailed it. Hello, agents, trainers, keepers, pilots, eighth wallers, scouts, and our beloved explorers and wayfinders. Welcome to episode 206 of the Wayspotters podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping you become a better wayfinder. Wayspotters is brought to you by the good people at the Pokémon Professor Network and our friends at Pickaxe. Today is Monday, December 22nd, 2025. I am Professor Glaw, aka Chris, and with me as always is Jamal. How's it going, buddy?
Hello, did you say Monday? What the heck's that all about?
It is Monday, so we are doing something a little bit different this week. We are going to record episodes 206 and 207 kind of back to back, and we're going to go through... It's been a year for Wayfarer, so we're going to go through all of 2025, and we were discussing this, and we kind of decided that so much has happened in Wayfarer that we're just going to do the first 6 months this week, and the next 6 months next week. But we're going to record them both today so that we can take a bit of a break and have a bit of a breather and take a bit of a hiatus, and you guys don't have to miss an episode. So we're gonna
by the magic of podcasting.
For the magic
nobody
of
will
podcasting.
ever know.
Exactly. So that's kind of what we're doing. It's gonna be good. You have put together some sort of comprehensive novel of stuff that's happened this year. I am thoroughly impressed with these notes, so it's gonna be a good couple of weeks. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to a little bit of a break and spending some time with the family.
Yeah.
Father-in-law is going to be here tonight or tomorrow, depending on traffic and how far he can get. So,
is he driving all the way up from Florida and try to do it in one shot?
He is. He stopped and slept a bit last night, and I think he's probably somewhere in Pennsylvania right now.
Okay.
Dude,
you know this. I'll tell you this. If you have friends or family making that trip, if they need to stop in Charlotte for a refuel, let me know. Give me just a couple hours notice and I'll be hospitable to them.
I do appreciate that. And I'm going to hit you up on that in February, the first week of February. We'll talk about this offline. But we're going down to Florida for a week, the first week of February. And I want to kind of arrange something for us to get together again. So
yeah, we can have a meal with the families and get together and do something. Yeah, that sounds good to me, man.
Cool. So before we get into kind of the fun stuff, the rants, the Christmas cheer, let's jump into the news real quick because I got a couple of things that will be at least timely this week.
Yes.
And now, the latest Niantic spatial and Scopely news from the Wayspotters podcast, presented by the Pokemon Professor Network.
There's currently an issue with Wayspot submissions both in Pogo and on the from the UI, like the web submits. The Wayfarer discussion Discord is saying that people are noticing that their nominations have reset back to 40, which would make sense. I was kind of hoping, they're not showing up in the contributions page and nobody's getting emails for their new Wayspot nominations. I was kind of hoping they were just stuck. But if they're resetting people's nominations, it sounds to me like they're gone. They haven't said anything. I could be wrong. Pay attention to our Twitter between now and when you're listening to this, I guess.
Yes. Well, the good thing is, since this is timely, this first episode is timely, Tintino made a post on the forum. I don't know if you saw it, hour and 30 minutes ago, and he made reference to the resetting of 40. So that is timely as of right now.
Yes. Yeah. So hopefully they can recover what you've done in the last couple of days. I'm not holding my breath. I haven't done anything in a couple of weeks, so mine were already at 40, so I don't know, and I don't have anything that's not. I was going to actually do some stuff in the next couple of days, but I think I might wait until they say they fixed it.
So I made a nomination yesterday, And then I noticed, where did it go? I was like, what the heck happened? So I just redid the nomination. So mine disappeared, and I'm going to look right now and tell you if it's in my contribution management or not. So I think it might be. And of course, Wayfarer just crashed. That's weird. Yeah. Oh no, it's back up. Okay. So the contribution I made, it is, yes, I made 2 and they weren't in there. And then what I did is I didn't even realize that, something was wrong. So I just resubmit them and I'm like, I don't care if it, I've got 40. I don't really care.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they're in there now.
Okay. So it sounds like they may have at least semi-fixed the issue and they're just recompensating people, resetting them to 40 to make up for the fact that some of them have gone poofy poof. So I'll stay tuned to our Twitter. We'll let you know what's going on there.
Sounds good. Stay tuned to our Twitter.
Yeah, always stay tuned to our Twitter. I wanted to take a second and talk about there's a player who was suspended from Wayfarer for 30 days. They appealed it. Turns out that they were suspended incorrectly. They had their suspension lifted, but during the time that they were taking to get that suspension lifted, between when they're suspended and when they got it lifted, their silver bottle cap in Pokemon Go expired. Which, if you know, you paid for that ticket to get that bottle cap. You've done all of the research to get that bottle cap. You only had a certain amount of time to use it before it went poof, which is weird to me, but that's neither here nor there.
And wasn't it like $7 US or $7.99 US or something like that? It was not a cheap. Yeah, it's not a cheap one.
I didn't buy it. I know it was that much. I didn't buy it.
I didn't buy it either.
So they posted on the forums. They were like, "Hey, I'm not really concerned about the missing gameplay and yada 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 and the ticket, blah blah blah. But my silver bottle cap, I kind of want that back." And the Pogo support was like, "Hey, FYI, you had to use your silver bottle cap by this date." And he's like, "No crap, I couldn't have. I was suspended incorrectly." And I think what sometimes the Pogo support, I'm convinced that 75% of it is just an AI chatbot.
I agree.
And it saw the word silver bottle cap and was like, FYI, you had to have used it by this date, and blah, blah, blah. And it kind of defaults to this sort of, sorry about your luck.
It's kind of that default that make sure you're in a stable area with Wi-Fi, blah, 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 that kind of default.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And so they posted on the forums. They're like, hey, I don't think the Pogo people understand what happened. Can you help me? And there was a little bit of back and forth. I think part of the Pogo team's issue was that there's no way for them to retroactively award a silver bottle cap. Just the way that it's coded, it has to come from the research because of the expiry.
Because of the timing and the expiration date.
And people were like, no, they absolutely can. I'm like, I don't think that they can, because I remember that they were like, hey, you guys, for the next challenge, you guys are going to get a lucky trinket. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Oh, no, we can't now. You're taking it away. You literally just... And that was the Pogo team going, no.
Can't do it. Sorry. You're like, no.
We cannot do that. So, and like, someone sent me a message and they were like, do you really think that Niantic can't? I'm like, do you really think that you really put it past them to code something this difficult to do? Like, come on now. It's Niantic we're talking about. Of course they've coded it this difficult. So the solution was Niantic, Tintino eventually got a hold of the post and was like, hey, let me look into this. Just give me a couple days, I'll look into it. Because there were some people who were mad. Like, they were like white knighting on this guy's behalf, which is needed, right? Like, he needed the attention on this post to get the answer he needed, which is fine. But like real angry about this. So Niantic's solution, and I think this is absolutely hilarious. Pure Lighter in our chat was just like, they can do that. They went in and they applied the effect of the silver bottle cap to his Pokemon in his account. They didn't give him the silver bottle cap. They
applied it Pokemon. To the Rayquaza.
I was like, that's it. I have way more questions about what they can do versus what they can't do now than I did before. Like, I'm super happy that this person got the resolution that they needed, because this
guy. I'm so glad.
Yeah,
I'm so glad the OP got what they got. Now remember, what this takes me back to is Fleece King. when his account got hacked. And then coincidentally, he ended up with his 100% pink sheep.
Yep.
Just kind of walked onto his screen like, okay, all right. So I don't know what they can and they can't do, but knowing that they can do this makes me think that there's a lot of things that they can do on a one-off basis. Maybe not on a mass scale, but on a one-off basis, they can probably do a lot more than we think that they can do.
Yes. I honestly think that they have more ability to mess with your Pokemon than they do have to mess with the items. And this was kind of the easier solution of the two, which is wild.
Right.
Wild.
And now remember, did you go to the first Go Fest in Chicago, or did you go to the second one?
I don't know. I think it was the second one.
So you didn't go to the one where everybody just got a Moltres or whatever it was when it rained. Remember, they just gave everybody one?
Yeah.
Okay. So we knew that they could do something like that way back when.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember. I don't know if they gave everybody a code and you just got it, or if it just appeared in your inventory. But we knew that they could do something like that. Remember? I didn't go, so I wasn't aware of how they did it.
I don't remember either. I went to the second one, and we got rained out in the park for like less than an hour. Like it was so much storming so bad that the city of Chicago went to Niantic and was like, you need to get the people out of the park now. We're pulling your permit. They're not allowed to be in the park anymore. Get them out. So they turned off the event and they went driving around and they ferried away all of the creators in their little golf carts, and they had the golf carts driving around with the megaphones. Get out of the park. It's storming in the city of Chicago. And like, these people were so mad. They were so mad. They were like, no, like, they can't control the weather. There's like a tornado rolling through. Calm down. So like, we went to a restaurant and we ordered lunch. It was like late lunch, early dinner. And like, by the time we ordered, they were already like, oh, you can go back in the park now. I hadn't even got my food yet. That's how quick it was. So we ate and went back to the park, and one of the guys I was with was like, come on, we gotta go. I'm like, I'm gonna eat. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm gonna eat now. I'm not paying $40 to not eat food. I'm like, if you want to go, I'll meet up with you later.
I'll meet you later. I'm gonna eat this food.
I will eat your food. You leave the money on the table, and I will eat your food, and then we'll meet you later. So he was like, all right, what I hear, and he left. I was like, cool. I'm like, they're gonna compensate us. They'll extend the day or whatever, right? So they gave us a full at-home Go Fest day in compensation for like the 30 minutes we were outside of the park. And I'm like, people were like, no, they should have just extended the day. And I'm like, do you understand that like them giving us an hour and a half now is less than this giving us 9 hours
whole day later? Like, for sure.
I got to play Go Fest from my park at home.
Right. Like that's pretty cool.
Right if they can. And that was like, people go back to that and they're like, well, they did that. They gave you a ticket for that. They just gave you a ticket for that. I'm like, that item was completely different than the first item. It was a ticket. They created that ticket and gave it to me. Like the silver bottle cap and the lucky trinket and the gold bottle cap, they've coded it in such a way that it's tied. I bet you it's the start date is tied to the end of the ticket.
Yeah.
And that's, they can't get around that. So they would have to create a ticket to then give you, for you to get the bottle cap. And then it would just be a whole thing. And like, this was just, you know what? I'm just going to go typity type. There you go. I also
put it
find
on the
interesting,
Rayquaza and keep it moving.
Right. And I also find it interesting that they were like, hey, I've DM'd you. Hey, I sent you an email. Right. So they were DMing him and talking to him in an email. But they chose to go through hey, what Pokemon do you want? Rayquaza.
Yes.
Hey,
on the forum.
What stat do you want? Attack. On the forum.
Yes.
Right? So that is,
I thought that is
100% Niantic going, look, we have compensated him. It's done. And he even shared a screenshot of his Rayquaza.
He sure did.
With the bottle cap attached. Like, I wasn't sure if they were just like, hey, we're just gonna max out the attack and you're done, right? That's Oops, sorry. No, it's Max. But they took the cap and they were like, there you go.
Yep.
And he shared a screenshot and he's like, look, I'm happy now.
I was shocked that as DM private as they are, that they put it out there on the forums. I was like, ooh, I'm not like that's a choice. You know what I mean? That's a choice.
Yes, that was 100% a choice, and it was 100% on purpose. And there was a couple of posts after that I question whether or not they should have been made. Like he's been made whole. Maybe let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
cue the Elsa meme.
It's exactly. I will say that there have been a couple of 30-day suspensions that have been handed out in the last month or so that have been reversed. So I kind of hope that Niantic tightens up the screws there, because guy literally right before this happened was arguing about people like, nah, the Wayfarer team's great about their suspensions, and they like one time in the last 4 years they've ever, and then they do it twice. And I'm like, you're not making me look bad.
You know, the one that I had an issue with, and I kind of understand why it happened, was the family that all played together and they all reviewed together, but it's like a husband and a wife and kids. And it wasn't, I mean, if you take a step back and just look, it could seem like a review ring, but when you realize it's just a family who's just, they just kind of play together, it makes sense. So I'm glad that was reversed, but I think your point, they got to kind of tighten it up and do a little more investigation on the front end to see if it is a family, if it is a review ring. Like that other guy who was like, can I get these 9 accounts unbanned? And they were all sequentially, in order. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, dingo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, dingo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, dingo. Okay, buddy. Those are not people. Those are accounts.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
H&X said that he thought that they might be clan tags, which might be a thing, but even then it's different people, and they're probably colluding with each other. So like it's neither here nor there, right? I think that one was way more legit than, but like I definitely came across like someone creating 15 accounts. Like, I am not cheating 001. I am not cheating 002. I am definitely not cheating 003. Right. Spoofing is fun.
Fun.
All right, let's jump into, I guess, topic number 1.
Yep.
Get ready for topic number 1.
2025 was not a quiet year for Wayfarer. I don't think that I remember a single year that had more happen in it since I started Wayfarer in 2019. Like, I don't think I'm overselling it by saying that. There is a year of big questions, big changes, and whether we want it or not, a lot of uncertainty. We saw ownership change hands, access expand in ways that we've never seen before, and a community that was constantly asked to adapt, often with not a lot of warning. And here's the thing. When you live inside Wayfarer bubble day to day, it's really easy to miss the bigger picture. One forum post blends into the next. One frustration replaces the last one. When you step back month by month, you start to see patterns. So we're going to do something a little different. We're going to walk through 2025 month by month, pulling out the themes, the moments, and the turning points that actually shaped Wayfarer this year. Not just what it changed, but how the community reacted to it. This isn't a Niantic did this or Scopely did that episode. This is about us, reviewers, nominators, veterans, new folks, and everyone who stuck around even when things got confusing. Think of this as the Wayfarer yearbook, but with fewer signatures and way more opinions. So let's rewind the clock and start to where everything begins. January 2025. January 2025. Same rules, new reality. January didn't come in hot with sweeping announcements, and honestly, that was part of the story. At the start of the year, Wayfarer was technically unchanged. No new criteria, no major feature launches, no big roadmap drops, but the community mood was already uneasy, like we knew something was coming. Reviewer fatigue was front and center. By January, a lot of longtime reviewers were already burned out. People were openly questioning whether reviewing was still worth it. Complaints about slow resolution times were everywhere. Edits, location tweaks, and appeals felt like they were sitting in limbo indefinitely. I don't know if you kind of felt that way in January too. January was very blah.
January was very blah. I mean, it's easy now to look back and say, oh, things are great now, but it's like, that's why we wanted to put this month-to-month thing together and kind of go back. And I like, there's this cool summarize feature on the forum where you can summarize things.
Yes.
And you can go and search for, how do I want to say this? You can go and search the forum for which post got the most views and comments, and that's kind of how I put this together. Was I just went back to each month and was like, what the hell was going on this month, and I kind of summarized that to see what we wanted to do. So
yeah, no, man, you did a great job too. Like, so January felt like one of those months where a lot of people were quietly saying, give this one more year, maybe. There's a lot of veterans on the forums, and I think it came through with a lot of the posts in January. People were kind of burnt out a little bit. Like, I remember creating my goals for 2025 at the end of 2024, and looking back, I wanted to get to 50,000 reviews. I'm not going to get to 40,000. That's how little I did in like the first couple of months of the year.
right.
I looked back and I was like, I went to my spreadsheet. It's like, all right, how many reviews a day do I need to do in order to hit my goal for this year? 1,074. I'm like, oh, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, like not gonna happen.
Yeah. Also, there was a lot of confusion around criteria consistency. Even though criteria hadn't officially changed, reviewers were reporting wildly on inconsistent outcomes. Trail markers being accepted one day, rejected the next. Playgrounds and gazebos still getting random denials. Supporting information seemingly ignored more than ever. That was big in January. Like, I had a couple things. It was in the first couple of months of the year.
It was foreshadowing for a lot of stuff that came later that we didn't really know about in January.
Yep. This led to a recurring January question on the forums and the Discords. Are the rules being actually applied the same way anymore? That question never went away in 2025, really. It's kind of been a recurring theme for the whole year. Appeals technically existed, but January reinforced how opaque the process felt and still feels, honestly. Long wait times, minimal explanations, outcomes that didn't seem to align with published guidance. Many people realized early in the year that appeals weren't really a safety net. They're more of a lottery.
Right. Yes. Very uneven application by the appeals reviewers, which led to a lot of questions of who are these people? And that question never really got answered. Are they Niantic employees? Are they contractors? Who are they? Nobody really knew.
I don't think we ever will. I don't think we're ever going to get a clear answer on that. My gut tells me that it's just random Niantic employees who are given a cheat sheet on the criteria and told to, during your downtime in between and waiting for things to compile, do a couple reviews. Like, I bet it's just a bunch of Pogo people who are just like, all right, type. I got this new feature that I'm working on. I'm gonna test it in a minute, but I have to wait 15 minutes for it to compile before I can test it. Okay, I'm gonna take this 15 minutes and do reviews. Like, it's a perfect way to manage your downtime as a company, honestly. Right? Like,
it's not bad. Yeah.
Like, I've done programming before, like when I was in high school and college. And there were times where, like, my teacher would walk by and go, what are you doing? I'm waiting for it to compile. I got 56 more minutes, so I'm just going to sit here and stare at the wall while I do that. And he's like, right? But, like, if you're a company, you're going to do reviews. Now, I'm not paying you to do nothing. I'm paying you to do...
Exactly.
Something?
Yep.
Is it something? I don't know. Early signs of a hands-off Niantic approach was subtle but important in hindsight. In January, official staff responses on the forum were lighter than previous years, fewer clarifications, and more "we'll pass this along" language. And that, I think, nobody really picked up on until later on in the year when we were kind of like, that explains a lot. Right. And January is a bit of a slower month for a lot of companies, like in the beginning, because people get vacation time, start to use it at the beginning of the year. Right. So
you kind of get that drip feed with people coming back slowly. Yeah.
No one called it out at the time, but January was when the community started feeling that Wayfarer was being maintained, not actively steered. This matters a lot more when you fast forward to March and May. Community energy shifted inward instead of waiting. Niantic creators, me, you, a bunch of others, filled explanation gaps. Discord servers became the real source of what's actually happening. Review strategies, rejection translation, and peer advice mattered more than official posts. The forums were really good at this time too. Like people kind of stepping up, and a lot of people in the community kind of filling that void that Niantic was, I don't want to say purposely leaving, but had left.
Well, I think what we look back on now, if you look at the timeline, and this is, spoiler alert, the company got sold. This is probably when a lot of those discussions were taking effect when we look back on the timeline. You think Q1 for an M&A, there was probably a lot of like down and dirty conversations going on right now. And it was like, don't touch it. Don't break it. Like the day before you sell a car, you don't drive it. Just, one of those things. You know what I mean?
Yep. You're like, I got someone coming to buy this. I'm going to wrap it in bubble wrap. Exactly. So when they get here, it's exactly the way that my selling post has it, right? Like, I don't want to... I've had this thing sitting in my closet for 25 years or 20 months or whatever. I don't want to break it, pulling it out.
Exactly.
Just, when the guy's pulling up with his wad of cash, right? January wasn't loud, but it was heavy. No big changes, no fireworks, just a lot of people trying to decide whether they still believed in the system would meet them halfway. So that was January.
I think that's really good. And then February kind of rolled right behind that. So February kind of title in this is when reviewers changed and how they played. So if January was like a quiet frustration, February was like quiet strategy. So nothing officially changed again, but the community did. Reviewers began reviewing differently, and I specifically remember this, Chris. So February was when a noticeable shift happened in how experienced reviewers approach nominations. People, quite honestly, became a little more conservative with their 4 and 5-star ratings. Technically eligible but risky nominations started to get passed over. I think a good example of that was neighborhood signs, for whatever reason, started to slow way down. Trail markers again started to slow way down. Reviewers only openly admitted that they were voting based on what would pass and not what should pass. And looking back on it now, I think that is 100% correct because people were actively going after agreements versus what should pass based on criteria. So it wasn't rule breaking, it was survival. And I don't know if that's a little bit too hyperbolous, and that's my big word for the episode. But February was kind of when people stopped asking, is this eligible? And started asking, will this survive in the system? What do you think?
I think that's kind of an issue that Wayfarer has had for a while. But like February was one of those months where you really noticed it. And it's hard sometimes, I think, as a reviewer, and I've done a lot of reviews in the last 2 months to try and at least get as close to my goal as I possibly can. And like I see things and I'm like, I don't feel that that's eligible according to my interpretation of the criteria. But there's 75 of them in the nearby, so I know it's going to pass. Do I vote to approve it to get my agreement, or do I vote with my conscience and tell you that this memorial bench to Frank isn't eligible because it's not. Right. But I know that there's one for John, Betty's sister, Betty's grandma, and there's like 75 of them, and I know it's going to pass. And I'm like, I'm going to revote. I'm going to reject this, and I know that I'm not going to get that agreement. But I know that there are people out there, and February was really bad for this. They're just like, I want my agreement. Sorry.
So supporting information became the real battleground. So February saw a spike on the forums in discussion about how much weight supporting information actually carries. So some of the common realizations were long explanations weren't helping, partly because people weren't reading it. External links were being ignored. People were not clicking them. And photospheres mattered even more. Now, we did a couple of shows, one with Chris, one with Agent X, where we talked about ways in which you could make a better supporting photo by using existing POIs in the photo, since photospheres went away. And I think in February was the first time that I remember people were kind of clamoring for those to come back. An interesting point, Chris, is now with the new system of reviewing on the web, you can kind of do your own photosphere. So I think Niantic kind of took a cue from the community and put something in place. Now, we'll never be able to prove that, but I can sleep at night saying that that's probably what happened.
Oh, for sure.
So
absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. This is also where the idea really took hold that you're not explaining to a person, you're explaining to a tired crowd. Creators, including Jamal and Chris, began recommending bullet points, plain language, and this is the most important, and this is to your credit, sir, zero assumptions about reviewers' knowledge.
That is one of the things that I think that got pushed a lot at the beginning of the year was don't make assumptions about what the reviewers know, and don't make assumptions about what the reviewers will garner from your supporting information and from your text and from Street View and from whatever else, right? A lot of people will just kind of slap their nominations through, type a little bit in supporting information, and see you later, never looking at Street View.
Right.
Like somebody posted on the forum yesterday and they're like, hey, this got rejected. I appealed it and they rejected it because they say that they can't find it. And then Sea Princess was like, well, yeah, because on Street View it's not there, and your supporting information supporting photo is the same as your actual photo, so that you've given absolutely no context as to where this is. You've given absolutely no proof as to where this is, and we were like, no wonder they rejected it. You did a poopy job. They were very nice about it.
But it's the truth. It is what it is.
It is what it is, right? And like you need to nominate things and explain things like the reviewer is a child, and that sounds disrespectful and that sounds demeaning,
but it is what it is.
It is what it is. So also in February, edits and location adjustments kind of fell further out of favor. So as I went through and reviewed this, by February, a lot of reviewers kind of had essentially given up on edits at this point. Title and edit descriptions were stacking up. You and I are both case in point there. We can look back on this and say we just had a ton of them that just were not moving through the system. Location edits kind of felt pointless because you went to look at a location edit and there was like 9 things on the map, and it's like you're never going to get a consensus because there's so many just little points that none of them are ever going to go, so it's just going to sit there. And many people had reported that edits were taking longer than brand new nominations, when in previous times edits were the things you could bank on that would go through a lot faster. Yeah, I mean, so edits didn't they just started taking forever, and there was some talk on the forum where people were just like, well, edits don't count towards your upgrades, so why would people do them? I'm like, first of all, they do, and second of all,
right,
they don't. Sometimes they fall into the other category, but they count towards your upgrades. But like, people, apparently a lot of people in January, February were skipping edits, which is wild.
Right.
Wild behavior.
Wild. Yep. And you know what? That fed a growing belief that editing is unpaid emotional labor.
Yeah.
Which is a brutal thing for a crowdsourced map to rely on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a brutal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think edits is one of those things that not a lot of people do.
Right. And then in February, and this to me, Chris, is 100% accurate. And for me and my locals here in Charlotte, the next thing is anxiety upgrade. Upgrade anxiety became a thing. Upgrades were no longer seen as a reward. Instead, people were worried that upgrades would kill borderline nominations. Strategic hoarding became common, and Discord advice increasingly included, don't upgrade this, right? Don't do it. And that's a massive philosophical shift for Wayfarer when your reward system has become something that people actively avoid. That is not great.
It is not great. And they were 100% not wrong. And
because there's many times where I told you, like, dude, I'm not upgrading this. I'll let this sit for a year. There's no way I'm hitting the upgrade button on this. Because if I do, boom. And whether that's the right way to think about it or not, I told many locals, they showed me their nominations. I'm like, dude, do not upgrade that. Let that sit in Charlotte. Do not upgrade that. You are going to get it rejected. You're going to have to burn an appeal or something else. Just leave that alone.
Yep. And that's, for years, people were just like, oh, you want stuff to go faster? You want stuff resolutions quicker? Upgrade it. Simple as that. Upgrade it. And then there was a shift from people going, no, unless it's like a playground or a church, don't.
Right.
Just don't. It's the kiss of death. And that's half the reason that I have so many. Right? Like, all my stuff used to fly through anyway. Like, I never really needed it.
That's what it says, strategic hoarding.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Right. And even for someone like you that used your upgrades, it literally as soon as you got them, almost.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For you to start hoarding them, it's a massive shift in the economy of Wayfarer.
Because it wasn't worth it. Because it was like, if I upgrade this, it's going to get rejected. Then I'm going to be mad. And then I'm going to burn an upgrade. And then I'm going to burn a second upgrade. And then I got to wait 30 days to get another upgrade. So I'll just let it sit and let the locals. And it paid off. And then more locals started doing it. And then, then it was like, once you get 20 upgrades, you might as well have 1 million. Because it doesn't matter, Especially you and I, who have nominated for years. There's not like I've got this blank canvas of things that I'm trying to get through. An upgrade really, to me, doesn't mean as much. And I never thought I'd say that, Chris, because from the 4 years we've done this, I lived on upgrades.
Yeah.
So February is also on the forum. Let's go to the forum for a second, where the forum tone shifted from questioning to warnings. So early 2024 was full of, can I submit this? Where when you get into February, it sounded more like, don't bother submitting useless blank. This used to pass, but now it won't. I wouldn't waste an upgrade on that. The forum had started to shift and become less instructional and more defensive. And that's kind of when we kind of had the first whispers of there's something bigger going on. At least that's the way I kind of saw it from what I was reading through some of, not necessarily the AMBOs, but some of the Niantic employees just kind of shifted the way they thought. And then the AMBOs, the advice they gave, and even some of the longtime Wayfarers were, it was less friendly to new people who were like, hey, I want to nominate this. And it was like, don't waste your time.
Yep, 100%. And it kind of falls in line with exactly what you were saying. When you've nominated everything in your area, you start to kind of shift towards the things that are borderline. And those are the things that you
gray area.
No upgrade. So
right. Exactly. Yes.
And I think that's kind of a lot of where the Wayfarer fatigue comes in, because you have a lot of people who are staunch map purists, like even more so than I am,
right?
Like even more so than I am, who started to get frustrated and started to get angry and started to get a little bit bitter about all of this borderline stuff that they were seeing in their reviews,
right?
And it's like, well, now all I see is cold. Now all I see is trash. But like, it's not trash. It's just you have to look a little bit harder to see that it's eligible. You have to look a little bit harder to see the eligibility of I can't think of the word that I was thinking of there. The eligibility of what's being, not like a lot of it was coal, right? I'm not
a lot of it was coal. Yeah, for sure.
But there was some hidden gems in there that people were just kind of brushing through because they were so fatigued at all of the garbage that they were seeing, right? And like, I didn't do a whole lot of reviews in January and February for that very reason.
Right. Now, this is important to remember in hindsight. By late February, people started speculating about internal changes at Niantic. Some wondered if Wayfarer was being deprioritized, and others suspected that tooling changes weren't being communicated. There was no evidence yet. You know, my favorite thing, just vibes, right? But the vibes turned out that they were accurate. So February was the month where the community stopped waiting for clarity and just adjusted, not because they wanted to, but because they had to.
Yep. 100%. March 2025, when the community stopped giving the benefit of the doubt. So the theme for March was from adaptation to skepticism. If February was quiet strategy, March was audible frustration. This is the month where people stopped assuming the system was working behind the scenes. Trust in the review system took a hit. By March, reviewers weren't just adjusting, they were questioning outcomes. Clear, high-quality nominations failed without explanation. Similar submissions received wildly different results. And appeals felt even more random than before, and more random rather than corrective. The phrase reviewer lottery started popping up more often, and not even unironically, people were being serious about it. March is when people stopped trusting the system would work eventually. March is when people stopped trusting that the system would eventually get it right.
Yep. No, I think you nailed it there. It was, the reviewer lottery thing. When I did the summarize button, that came up like 9 times in March, and I'm like, wow, I remember seeing it, but like that it came up that often. I'm like, okay, we got to put it in. I'm like, if it came up 9 times in March, then it's definitely going in the show.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I don't remember seeing it that much, but that doesn't surprise me because looking back, that's one of the things that I remember people talking about. Appeals also became a flashpoint. Appeals were supposed to restore confidence, became controversial. Some obviously strong appeals were rejected. Some confusing or weak ones passed. Long wait times on appeals added to the frustration. Instead of being reassuring, appeals started to feel like a second roll of the dice, which is never a good system. For many submitters, this is worse than a flat rejection. Reviewer fatigue turned into burnout, and that's kind of where I was at too in March. Like it was just, I did a little bit, and then by March I'm just like, I love Wayfarer. Like we do the podcast every week, so I was still doing like a little bit, enough to kind of keep myself engaged, but
stay current.
It felt more
you remember me. You remember that I was having trouble with appeals. Like I was losing appeal after appeal. And I'm just stubborn of an SOB that I'll keep going. But a lot of people were getting frustrated and going, everybody on the WDD, everybody in our Discord, everybody on the forum seems to think that this is eligible, except for the people who are reviewing this and the appeals reviewers. So a lot of people were like throwing their hands up, preferably like, what's going on? And I was kind of like that, but at that point I was just out to prove a point that I was going to get this through. And I have an issue with that. That's a flaw. That's one of my Achilles heels, and I know this, but I still did it anyhow.
Yeah. I had one appeal rejected in March that I still to this day don't understand. But it's just one of those things that I haven't been back to try again. And I don't know that I will, because it's in a cell that's occupied. There's already like 3 power spots in the area, and it's just I can't. I don't know if I can be bothered. Maybe next time I'm out there I will. But it's like February was caution, March was exhaustion. Reviewers talked openly about doing fewer reviews. Me for one. Discord saw I'm taking a break posts. There's a bunch of people in March that were just like, I'm done for now. I don't know if it's forever, but I'm done for now. Long-time contributors admitted that they were disengaging. The system didn't collapse, but participation definitely softened. Nobody quit dramatically. They just slowly logged out, which is, I'd almost rather people quit dramatically, because then that kind of sends the message. if you have enough people do it, where people just kind of slink away, no one ever really notices, and people just the system just kind of grinds to a slowing halt, which is much worse. Then there was the why should I bother moment. It was a subtle but crucial shift. March is when contributors started asking, why submit if it's going to fail anyway? Why review if it doesn't improve outcomes? And why care more than the system seems to? The question doesn't show up in metrics immediately, but it is deadly long term.
Sure.
Communication gaps became impossible to ignore. By March, the absence of official updates felt louder than any announcement. No clarification on appeals, no transparency on reviewer behavior, no acknowledgement of frustration. Even neutral posts were read through a skeptical lens. Silence stopped being neutral and started feeling intentional. At some point, you start to notice that organizations or people have been quiet or people have been kind of reserved, and you're just like, this is different. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it feels different. March is when I think people started to put their finger on it and be like, there's not a lot coming from the other side. And people started to kind of put it together in their heads and be like, if you're not going to say anything for months at a time, like with any stuff, like they said things, but there was no substance for a while. That people start to kind of go, questioning whether or not I should be
something's going on.
And
looking back on it, we kind of understand what was going on kind of internally from the outside looking in. And again, it was like, we're not going to make any big waves because we're about to make a big wave. So let's just try to, just kind of goose this thing to the finish line.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I see it.
No, yeah, I completely agree. Community conversations got sharper. Tone matters, and March had edges. Less, help me improve this. More, this makes no sense. Sarcasm crept into a lot of feedback threads. It wasn't toxic, it was strained. And like, we talk about forums.
You've touched on this a couple of times.
Yeah,
You've touched on this.
It's a theme, right? You could feel people trying not to snap, and people did. Some people did, right? But like there wasn't a lot of it. Contributions adapted further. Private reviewer groups, heavier reliance on Discord versus the forums. More gatekeepy advice started to come through. And I think that was just kind of a lot of people trying to avoid other people from getting frustrated like they were. There was a lot of, don't bother. Just save yourself. Just don't bother. Right? Whereas more before that, people would kind of like, okay, let me help you tweak this just enough so you might get it through so you can have a shot. People are just like, nah, don't even. Just don't even. Walk away. Run while you still can. The community didn't necessarily break in March, but it definitely spread out. And there was, I think, it got kind of cliquey a little bit. People started to kind of go out in their little groups. And then March 12th, 2025, Niantic announces its sale of its games business to Scopely, which included Pokemon Go, Campfire, and Wayfarer in a $3.5 billion deal. March was when frustration stopped being theoretical, and people didn't start just feel it, they started acting on it.
Yeah. And then we go right into April. So April was kind of when frustration met reality. So if March was skepticism, April was when the cracks began to influence real actions. So now that we knew that the company was going to be sold, there was just so many questions. So strategic submissions evolved. So players weren't just frustrated, they got strategic. This can be both good and bad. We know the bad side of it that we don't talk about, but more nominations submitted and groups began to hedge a risk. Experimentation with phrasing and photo angles to beat automated filters, aka Emily, and test submissions to see what would get accepted. So people started to play the game, Chris. We've got like 8,000 examples of stuff that we could talk about, but we choose not to. But people started to play the game to see if they could beat the bot, if you know what I mean. They started to see if we do it this way, what'll happen. If we do it that way, what would happen? And based on what we knew from the latter, people started to get affected. So April kind of felt like the community was learning the rules the hard way, sometimes better than the system itself. People were trying things and people were kind of getting swatted, and people were trying things and people were getting away with things. And then the lack of official clarification kind of became tangible when forum posts asking for policy upgrades increased. Discord channels became the primary source of support and discussion hubs because people didn't want to talk about certain things on the forum. And then even small delays in responses felt magnified. So looking back on it, we can kind of understand from the timeline that we were exposed to after the sale went through, there was a lot of high level stuff going on at Niantic/Scopely. And honestly, it's kind of like, you ever been driving down the road with your wife or kids or whomever, and next thing you know, like 6 miles has gone by, and you're like, I wasn't like not paying attention to the road, but I wasn't like in-depthly watching the road, and all of a sudden we're damn near home. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's not like you were putting anybody in danger, but you weren't paying close attention. And my read on it is that's what was going on in Q1, was somebody kind of had one hand on the wheel and they were like talking to people, and then if something happened, they would look back at the wheel. But it just got into a system where then the metrics began to matter, and then April kind of marked when contributors paid attention to results over effort. So some people logged fewer nominations if approval rates dropped. I have never been really concerned about my approval rates because some of my nominations I nominate 7 times, so I know my numbers are going to suck. But for some people, like you like your 99, 98, 95% approval rating. People like that. Like I did for a while until stuff started to get rejected that I knew was eligible. And I'm like, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. Appeals increasingly got scrutinized for like return on investment. People started making business decisions on whether or not there were some things that I nominated that I knew I was going to have to use an appeal on. Like there was no way it was going to go through. I knew when I took the picture and wrote the description, this was going to be an appeal. So I'm looking at my return on investment. Like, is it worth it for me to have to know that I'm going to have to burn an appeal? And then discussion shifted from ideals to effectiveness. This is the month where playing the system kind of became a survival skill. And I was part of that. I legit thought about things way ahead of time, like I'm going to have to do X, Y, or Z to get this through. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we got to remember too, in early April, Niantic, part of the announcements that were coming out in March and April, Niantic announced that they were splitting Ingress into Niantic Spatial, and the maps were going to split. So I think in April, a lot of people started shifting their focus to for one way or the other. They were like, if at the end of this, I'm a Wayfarer, but I'm an Ingress Wayfarer, I'm going this way, and you, as a Pogo Wayfarer, are going this way. And it kind of fractured the community a little bit. Let's be honest.
It did. It really did. It really did.
And it really, people started to kind of, it was a shift. People started to focus more on their game boards rather than the map. Whereas previously it was just, we're just going to throw it on the map and whatever happens, whatever happens. People shifted back into, well, I'm an Ingress person, so I'm going to Ingress, and I'm a Pogo person, so I'm going to Pogo.
And people started looking at it through those lenses going, this isn't good for Ingress, so I'm not going to approve it, or this is good for Pogo, so I am going to approve it.
Yep.
And then what we saw also was community leadership started to shift. Like you said, moderators, top reviewers, and Discord influencers started to take a more visible role. And I think the role they took depended on the game they played. But one good thing was people started to help new submitters adapt. Sharing patterns about approvals and rejections, and sometimes Niantic's decisions publicly were challenged. So April was kind of where informal leadership with the community really started shaping outcomes. Some for the good, some for the bad. I always nominated through Ingress, and I made the shift right then and there that the nominations I want them to show up in Pogo, so I'm going to stop nominating in Ingress, and I'm going to nominate in Pogo when that time comes. Now, positive sparks emit frustration. So even with kind of rising tension, small wins kept contributors engaged. Useful tips from veterans and reviewers circulated widely. Successful appeals were celebrated. Mentoring moments reinforced why people still cared. So I think people kind of got a little reinvigorated knowing that a change was coming. We didn't know what was going to happen in May, and we'll get to May in a second. We just knew something would happen. I remember I went back and listened to one of our episodes, and I specifically remember standing on the mountain and saying Control C, Control V. Remember when I said that? I'm like, nothing to see here, much ado about nothing. I'm like, they're going to work together, blah, 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 blah. That's just what I thought at the time, and I was one of those people that it was like, all right, guys, let's kind of put our hats back on. Let's get back in there. The system, the community wasn't broken. It was resilient. It was just cautious. The community adapted to the gaps in the system. Real consequences of that frustration for March started the show, but it set the tone for kind of the mid-year strategies and the mid-year interaction. So by April, the frustrations had turned into focus action. People weren't quitting. They were learning how to navigate the system better than ever, knowing that it was going to be split in two. And I think that leads you right into May, sir.
Yes, it does. Also, we got to remember in April, we had that challenge right after they announced the challenge. And it was one of those things that they were just like, here's a reviewing challenge for everyone. Yay!
Right.
And people were just like, oh, they're only doing it because we're anxious.
They want to clean up the backlog.
Right. And it's just, they never came out and outright said that they were doing it to clean up the backlog and make sure that the split was clean as possible, but everyone knew it.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So.
And given the timing, it made sense of what you're about to talk about.
I get it. It shocked no one when they announced it, right?
Right.
May 2025. Ownership becomes a reality. The theme for May was community strategy meets corporate shakeup. The major milestone was May 29th, 2025, when Scopely completes the acquisition of Niantic's game business. This is a huge moment. Scopely officially takes ownership of Niantic's game portfolio, minus Ingress. But everyone kind of at the beginning of this knew that Ingress was never going to be on the table. Right. This is Niantic's IP, their own individual IP. They created it. It's their baby. They were going to keep it forever. Community buzz explodes with speculation for what this means for Wayfarer, Pokemon Go, and other Niantic projects. People were just like, are they going to bring back NBA All World? Is that Transformers game finally going to get greenlit again? People were like really excited about kind of what the possibilities. And, some of this stuff might still happen.
Mm-hmm.
It probably won't. Reactions range from excitement to cautious optimism, and everyone is watching closely. May wasn't just another month in Wayfarer history. It was the month the game world shook. Scopely stepped in, and suddenly everything felt like it could change. I think a lot of people who were very disenfranchised with Niantic and Wayfarer and that whole kind of system, people were like, this is it. This is the time. We have new ownership. It's like going back to that restaurant that's got the big banner on it. It says under new ownership.
Yes, under new ownership. Yep.
And it's just like they've painted the tables. That's it. That's really all that changed was they painted the tables. They're not Niantic color. Now they're Scopely color.
Yep.
Submission tactics got refined. Users continued to analyze past approvals and rejections to optimize their submissions. Knowledge sharing in Discord and forums intensifies. Geotagging, photo angles, and detailed descriptions became hot topics. Even as the corporate world shifted, contributors doubled down on mastering the craft of submissions, which is a bit refreshing.
You got to stop there. You got to stop there and talk about this because this is you. You, Agent X, and a few other people, Sarah Manda, were talking about how important the photos were, using that app to geotag things and just better ways to make your submissions pop. So I think this is when all of that got really hot and people were like, hey, if this is our reality, let's make it fun.
And I think that it goes back to people's refreshing sense or refreshing take on what was happening. People were excited about Wayfarer again. People were excited about the future of Wayfarer and what this could mean. People were, I don't want to say looking forward to the kind of Scopely's angle on Wayfarer, but a lot of people were just like, oh, Scopely's going to be a lot less gatekeepy about their map than Niantic Spatial was, and it's going to be different, it's going to be better, and people were kind of getting re-engaged with Wayfarer again. The doldrums of January, February, March were over. We're into kind of spring, at least in the northern hemisphere. People, it's starting to get warm again. People are going outside again. It just felt like Wayfarer was fun for a lot of people again, and then there were a lot of people in the Wayfarer community were like, okay, cool, we're gonna take this time and we're gonna start educating people, because if you're coming back to Wayfarer, you gotta come back right. So here is knowledge dump, everything that we've learned in the years of Wayfarer, everything that you can do to make your life easier and make my life easier, because if I'm gonna start doing 100 reviews a day again, I don't want to be looking at slop. I want to be looking at nice, pretty things with good supporting photos, and it was fun again. Like, this is May is kind of when I started getting and started doing reviews again. Honestly, like, I hate to say
I got that feeling back.
I got my mojo back, and it was great. And there's a lot of good posts that came out in this part of the year, of people, like you said, who were just like, here is tutorials on how to do it properly. And it really felt like the community came together to help everybody else out. And it was a great time. Policy rumors spread. Discussions about possible system updates and policy changes grew louder. There was a lot of speculation in May about possible changes to Wayfarer and what that might look like. And not a lot of it was great, but a lot of it was great.
I don't disagree with you there, because it was kind of like spring training. You know what I mean? Like, hope springs eternal. The Cubs are going to be in the World Series. You know what I mean? No, it was just kind of like everybody was like refreshed, and it's like these rumors are out there, and it's like, yeah, it's like, like if you're a sports fan and you're our age, and I say spring training, the Cubs are going to be in the World Series, the vibe I'm going for. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, 100%. It's the beginning of a sports season. Every team's every team has a chance at the championship. Even if really deep down you know that they don't, every team has a chance, because you never know.
That's right.
May 2025 will be remembered for two things: the community leveling up their submissions, and one very big corporate move that everyone's eyes are now on. And one thing that happened in May that I think that we need to point out is May 22nd at 7:01 p.m. Pacific. Niantic was like, "Hey, the split's happening tomorrow."
Yep.
And at 11 a.m. Pacific the next day, it was like 13 hours.
Yep.
I think
that was the day that everybody on the forum, cites that day. That's the day that intel.ingress.com or whatever it is died or was reborn. Yep. Died to be reborn later. And anybody looking for any kind of help on the forums, the further away you get from that date, the further away the things are less accurate.
100%. People were just like, oh, there goes our map. Like, it wasn't 100% to begin with, but that was kind of the day. And I think that fractured a lot of the goodwill that was being built in May, because people were like, whoa. And then Tintino even said, he's like, I understand that this is not a lot of time. I understand that this is going to frustrate a lot of people. And to Tintino's credit, they had been saying since this was announced that we will let you know when the map split's going to happen. You might not get a lot of notice. Like, it was said multiple times.
You said 13 hours?
He even said in his post, we told you that we might not get a lot of notice, but people were just like, okay, we thought that meant like 1 or 2 days, not 13 hours.
Right. 13 hours.
And like 13 hours, like a lot of people were sleeping through.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So.
Some people didn't even see the notification. It just split.
It's too late. Yep.
Yeah.
Because in certain time zones.
Yeah. It's a global game.
It's a global game, right? So it's unfortunate, but it's kind of part of what happened in May. So,
yep. And to wrap up this episode number 206 of the Wayspotters podcast, we're going to cover June, and then next week you're going to hear July through December. But June, Chris, was kind of the beginning of adjusting to a new era. So corporate ripples, right? Whenever these things happen, post acquisition reactions, Company A buys Company B. Sports team moves from one city to another. So following the May 29th acquisition. So May 23rd was the day that the map split. But May 29th is the legal date when the acquisition closed. And not a lot of people care about that because they only care about the map. But if we're following it, May 29th was the actual acquisition date. So June was all about, processing what it meant for Niantic games, and specifically Niantic Wayfarer. Community forums and Discord channels were buzzing with speculation. Will submission reviews ever change? Will the approval criteria shift? Hey, I was out there shouting my mouth off that we were going to get all these criteria changes and da-da-da-da-da. Remember, I was like the lead dog out there saying they've got their chance right now to change everything and to make it more inclusive and to do X, Y, and Z. And I was like the guy leading that charge. And I think this was the month, Chris, where there was more side talk. There was more people involved in individual and group DMs than there ever was before. Everybody had a take. Contributors shared strategies for staying ahead, emphasizing flexibility and patience in the face of potential system updates. That was me. I was that contributor. I was out in front. Like after the shockwave of May, June felt like the community collectively held its breath. Everybody was asking, what's next? Right?
Yep.
Everybody's asking what's next. So submission strategies began to evolve. Users continued refining their submission techniques, optimizing photo angles, description depth, and location context as hot topics. Success stories from early adopters, new strategies inspired others, fostering a collaborative yet competitive atmosphere. People were really like saying, all right, now that this is new and now that the map is new, here's what you do in order to do it. And I think you saw a shift in the way people were reviewing because you saw a shift in the way people were nominating.
Yes, 100%. There was an absolute shift to basically everything in Wayfarer in June.
Yep. Community leadership emerged, right? So experienced contributors started mentoring new members on best practices and how to navigate in the evolving landscape. And I got to give a shout out, and I know she hates this when I do it, but I got to give a shout out to Ellie Just Trying on the forums and even on Reddit, who took several people under her wing and tried to guide them into having a great forum experience and really tried to talk to them at the level that they were coming to the forum on and explain what they needed to know. So she is one, and Chris, whenever we start naming people, we leave people out. So I'm not going to try to remember everybody, but I am going to call out Ellie because she was one of the ambassadors that I look up to. And I bounce things off of, and I think she does an excellent job of bringing new people into the forum. So I personally want to shout her out from June, But then there was then you know what, Chris? There was informal recognition that appeared in the forums for high quality submissions and thoughtful supporting statements. But what was encouraging in June, besides being my birthday month, we started to see early signs of Scopely's influence, right? So while the community waited for official announcements, minor hints of potential policy changes or review system tweaks started to spark some conversation. So Users began preparing for changes by improving approval tracking to be more structured feedback from reviewers. So people started to say, all right, I'm going to create this system and I'm going to do this. And I revitalized my spreadsheet. You brought your spreadsheet. June was less about shock and awe and more about adaptation. We started to figure out where things were going, kinda. The scope of the acquisition had kind of set the stage, and the community was kind of learning to dance to the new rhythm. It's kind of like you said, there's that new restaurant, and all of a sudden, they painted the tables, but, now instead of country and Western music, we're starting to hear a little merengue. It's like, ooh, okay. And you could kind of feel that something was changing, but I think that's probably a good place to leave June off. And let everybody kind of digest this, get them back out to their Sunday, and then we'll get ready for next week where we'll talk about the back half of the year.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we forgot to mention for June was that's when we got more appeals. They went down from
that's right. Yes.
From 20 to 15 days. It was about the middle of June. That's right. And I think I said at the time, this felt like one of those, here's a bit of a gift for putting up with the last couple of months of a lot of uncertainty.
Yep,
and
for sure.
For a little bit, people were like, woo! They were excited again, right? And it's kind of like one of them distraction carrots that they used, which was, hey.
Look at the shiny object over there.
Look at the shiny object over here. Don't look at this. Right, so. All right, so we're going to, as I said at the beginning, we're doing things a little bit different. So we're going to skip Call of the Week, Wayspot of the Week this week. We're just going to go ahead and sign everybody off, get everybody back to their Sunday. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Wayspotters. We really appreciate it. A big thank you goes out to our executive producer, KatettheKonz, and our show historian, Maddie G, and to all of our patrons. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much. Now, if you enjoyed this episode of Wayspotters, there are a few ways that you can show us. We are on Twitter, @Wayspotters. We are also on Instagram, @Wayspotters Podcast, and on TikTok, @IMakeWayspots. We are incredibly responsive and love interacting with our followers. Let us know what you thought about today's episode. You can also visit our website, www.wayspotters.com. From there, you can get links to everywhere you can download the show. You can also send us a message directly from the website or email us, wayspotters@pokemonprofessor.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. For those who still need to be sure to check us out, youtube.com/@wayspotters podcast. Leave us a voicemail on our hotline, 704-426-3710, or tweet us a voice message. You never know, your voicemail may appear on an upcoming episode of the show. Finally, if you are not a member of the Pokemon Professor Network Patreon, you can join for as little as $1 US a month. All you need to do is go to patreon.com/PokemonProfessor. You will have access to the Discord for the entire family of shows across the Pokemon Professor Network, including Wayspotters, Special Conditions, Gotta Watch 'Em All, Purified Podcast, Good Morning Johto, Sleep It Off, After Dark Right, and Lured Up. It is a fantastic place filled with fantastic people. Jamal and I are active in the Discord quite a bit, so come and hang out. We would love to have you. And shout out to Gotta Watch 'Em All that is finally back. They did their, Lane and Ken did the first episode that's been done in a while, so go check it out for sure, because that was a pretty popular one that's been on hiatus for a little bit, so we're excited to see them come back. And with that, we look forward to you joining us again next week here on Wayspotters. We appreciate all of the support we get each week. We could not do this without all of you, and remember, it's not that far. Get out of your car.